Now, how do you feel about Brittney Griner becoming a free woman yet again?
I'm very happy for her. I'm very happy for her wife. Very happy for her family. I'm happy for the United States of America. If you have an understanding of, just a slight understanding of geopolitical politics and the way that things happen, I felt like this was an opportunity when they saw Brit,
Mm-hmm.
and they said, okay, she has something that we can grab this woman. We're familiar with her. We've been watching her. She's
Yep.
been living here in Moscow. We know about her. We have a profile on her. If you know about the history of the Russian intelligence services, police forces, believe me when I tell you, if you're in any of these countries and you're a foreigner, they know exactly what you're doing, where you're doing
Yep.
it, and how you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So they grab her and they utilize her as a political.
Mm-hmm.
Then they turn around and they let you know that she's going to a Russian gulag now. Now that raises the stakes on their backdoor meeting that's happening. Obviously, if they're all this stuff is set up to go to the Emirates to bring
Mm-hmm.
her, there was a lot going on that we don't know about and we still don't know about. All
Yep.
right. So the presumptions that people are making and some of the wild statements they're making about Green that's over there now, Mr. Paul Whelan, which I want to see him released, is just as
Yep.
important as any Americans anywhere in the world need to be released, and it shouldn't be used as political pawns.
My opinion with Brittany and everything that's going on with her. Yes, like I said, she really, in all honesty, should have only been given a fine.
Of
Now,
course.
whatever that amount is, depending on how much she makes and however the percentages work, whatever. She was supposed to be given a fine, and yes, she would have been able to pay it. It's not
Right.
like it was going to be a $3 million,
Yeah.
USD
Yeah.
thing. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It would have just been a fine. Okay, but as you said, yes, they're like, okay, we have the opportunity. Let's use her as some kind of a political prisoner in that sense and whatnot. And then people were talking about Victor Boot, who was the one that we have in American custody, and then we did a prisoner swap with. Now,
Right.
Russia did want to use to get Paul, they said, anyways, they wanted another guy that was actually in, I believe, Germany, who actually murdered somebody, okay?
Yeah. Because
But
they said that Victor Boot was Russian, and turns out that he's Ukrainian.
yeah, so
And I
I'm
thought
like,
that was kind of
okay,
interesting under the situation
yeah,
and now it shows you that there's some Ukrainians, I guess, the motherland may have a need for, huh?
yeah,
Because
and
with his knowledge of Ukrainian defense systems, if he sold in some of those systems,
mm-hmm.
it might be interesting that the reason that they wanted him out was so that they could help with the war effort against the Ukrainians in some kind of way. So that could be possible. That's one of the reasons why. I mean, this
Maybe.
guy had extensive contacts in all type of armaments through all different kinds of countries. And that's another thing I want to point out. I think a good starting point for anybody is to watch the film with Nicolas Cage in it, Lord of War. We just watched it because of the fact,
Yesterday. Yep.
and what we found in this film. Now I'm sure that there's some artistic license that's there,
But
but
definitely.
but you have to also think that a lot of the things that he was doing and the reference points that he was making, because they did make the point of showing a high level American general or lieutenant colonel that you never saw his face,
Mm,
but he was handing them money and setting them up with weapons. And the biggest dealers of small arms in the world are the United States, number one, with probably Russia or China coming in close with the other smaller countries that also make weapons. They say, yeah, this guy's a terrorist. And the biggest terrorists there are all the foreign governments that allow metric tons of weapons, a lot of times traded for illicit cash or drugs. Those drugs end up in our country. If you want to have an understanding of how weapons move from one place to another, you might want to check with our own agency that's been around since the end of World War II, that used to be the OSS, called the CIA. And I just, yeah, you need to wake up and get out of your bubble a little bit. Victor Boot will definitely not make or break anything when it comes to the totality of the amount of weapons that get moved around the world at the hands of the United States of America, sophisticated weapon systems. Look how many weapons have been given to the Ukrainians already
Yeah.
in the year.
I
So
didn't know
this
that.
is actually the second exchange with the Biden administration. The other thing that bothers me with these red hat clowns is this. You're screaming about Paul Whelan and he's a Marine and what are you doing? First of all, we just had a conversation about that he was not honorably discharged. What's going on? And I also thought it was odd that this man has citizenship to 4 different countries, which is a little unusual. And I don't know if it's for his business. I don't know if there might be some intelligence work in this guy's background and they actually know who it is they have. And we can only take the official story as opposed to reading between the lines on what's taking place. You got people that are State Department personnel, but they actually work for the Central Intelligence Agency or other intelligence agencies. So is the guy a go-between? Is he a contractor? So there's some things that might be more to the table than what we know. That's the same thing with the Ukrainian situation as well. You know, there was stuff that was going on prior to the whole war, years before, with the Democratic Party, of course, with Joe Biden and his son being on the board of Burisma, but also with Mike Flynn and Roger Stone. So there's things that they don't want to talk about that are the reason why other things happen. They're connected. Mr. Paul Whelan was taken into Russian custody in 2018. The family reached out to the Trump administration a number of times, begging for him to even say something in his Twitter feed, which he loves talking on his Twitter about everybody else. He never said anything. It could have been that Mr. Whelan could have been out of the country had they made a real strong effort.